Hello my friends, my name is Artur Rehi and I am an Estonian soldier. Whoa, what the hell man? A 30mm round in my face. Oh, it's big. This is a true A10 Warthog round. Some of you guys sent it to me, look how big it is. Now I really have to feel how big these rounds are, and they shoot them, what was it, 70 rounds a second. These babies come out of the battle and the tank explodes. Oh, I want to see that in real life so bad. My friends, I appreciate your comments. You have been worried about me, where have I been? Ever since the drama with YouTube and my demonetization, yes, I've taken a little break because mentally, if you get such a big of a hit, of a, shock, then you need to calm down a little bit. But now, I want to come back to you. I want to make videos again, and let's start with this one. But before we go, as usual, who kept me alive during the break? Of course, the Patreons. You guys came to my aid when I needed it the most, and I'm here to name some names. I'm here to actually guide attention to these people who think about others also, not only to themselves. These wonderful people. In my Patreon you can pledge $1, $5 or $10 or more, and I'm going to name from now on only 10 and up pledges. So if you pledge 5, I cannot name you because the list is quite long, and I would leave out the others then who have pledged a bigger amount. I'm sorry if you feel this is unfair, but I feel that I owe this to the people who pledged 10 or more. First of all, we have Glenn Bush, a relative of George Bush, perhaps. Definitely, 100%. Thank you, Mr. George Bush relative Glenn Bush. Secondly, we have Mason Scott. Thank you, Mr. Scott. And isn't Mason one of those stone workers? Stone Mason? Yeah, Mr. Mason? Thank you for becoming a Patreon. And finally we have Mr. Sulky. It's just Sulky, but I put Mr. in front of everything. So Mr. Sulky, I appreciate your help. If you want to become a patron, or if you want your name to be read out loud on this channel, choose a tier 10 or more and I will do it. Now I'm very thankful to every last patron, is it 1, 5 or 10. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. But now my friends, could you repeat that please? Oh, we have a Black Hawk Down? Send every man you have. I've seen the movie. It's a hell of a movie. I love the movie. But now we have actually the operations room, the channel who details battles, has done an animated battle review of Black Hawk Down 1993. I wasn't even born. I'm born in 1996. So 3 years I'm in the making. In the making. I want to see what this famous battle is all about. And if it is as dramatic in real life as it was in the movie Black Hawk Down, with Orlando Bloom and all other famous actors. Grab your Estonian YouTuber cup. If you don't have it, you need to go and get it, because otherwise you go blind. You can't watch my videos without it. Let's go, baby.
This is Romeo 64 to all elements. Irene. With the launch code issued, the Earth rumbles as the armada of helicopters lift off the ground and head out. Somali spotters near the airport radio ahead to warn that the Americans are on their way. As they fly out over the airport perimeter towards the ocean, a convoy of 9 Humvees and 3 5-ton trucks leave the base and head towards the city. It's 3:35 PM. The raiding force should be in and out in 30 minutes. Somalia is in civil war, with multiple parties and clans violently competing for power. UN troops have been deployed to the country to maintain peace and ensure the distribution of food supplies to the people.
As much as I've heard about the food supplies and why the UN is there, is you give food to Somali people because they're starving, and the food is taken away by the warlords. You need your troops, you need United Nations troops there to actually just distribute the food so the warlords wouldn't take the food and people wouldn't starve.
The UN brings about a settlement between the factions to lay down their arms and move towards national unity and democracy. One faction, the Somali National Alliance, or SNA, despite signing the agreement, ignores it and attacks UN troops in the area in June 1993. The US deploys Task Force Ranger to Mogadishu Airport, a special forces group made up of Rangers, SEALs, the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, and a company from the 1st Special Forces Operational Detachment Delta, also known as Delta Force. Task Force Ranger, or TFR, are here to find and kill or capture the leader of the SNA, General Mohammed Farah Aidid. The SNA is predominantly made up of Aidid's own clan, a form of family tribal structure, the Harbour Gadir, and it is hoped that toppling Aidid will halt the violence. Task Force Ranger launches raids into Mogadishu to capture Aidid, but have so far been unsuccessful. In July 1993, American Cobra attack helicopters launch rockets and cannon fire into a building they believe to be hosting a meeting between Aidid and his war council. Aidid isn't present, and an American war correspondent reports that the meeting was actually between Somali elders discussing routes to peace, with 200 casualties inside the building.
200 casualties, and it's Somali elders discussing peace. Oh, this is a bummer. This is bad, bad, bad. This will make the whole city of Mogadishu hate you. There have been some bad targeting by the Americans also. Right, so this raid now is supposed to be, as I understood, 1 to 2 hours in and out. You take the prisoner, you come back out. No casualties, no shots fired perhaps. Well, it's too ambitious. I mean, you're dealing with many factions. You're dealing with a city like Mogadishu. It's not a city, it's a slum. It's a huge slum taken over by rival gangs, and everybody has a weapon. Everybody has an AK-47 and they're ready to shoot in the bush. Honestly, I don't know who made this plan up, but it seems very ambitious.
The SNA seized the opportunity to promote anti-American sentiment and propaganda in the city. Fury at the Americans' presence builds in Mogadishu, and 4 Western journalists covering the story are killed by an angry mob.
Oh hell.
On the 3rd of October 1993, Task Force Ranger receives a tip-off of the location of an SNA meeting in the city.
Oh,
with
the city's
foreign
huge.
minister.
Look at this. It's a big city. Woo! How many people lived in Mogadishu back then? Let me guess. I am guessing about 300 to 500,000. I mean, Estonia capital, Tallinn has 500,000 people. This is big for us. I mean, Mogadishu is... Hell, it might have a million people. I don't know. Let me know in the comments, please.
Omar Salad El Meen and his top political advisor, Mohammed Hassan Awali, in attendance. With just 2 hours' notice, TFR prepares and launches a raid to snatch them both, hoping this will bring them closer to Aidid himself. The plan is for AH-6 Little Birds to land the Delta Force teams on the street outside the target building containing El Meen and Awali, and they will storm the building. Meanwhile, 4 Ranger Chorts, squads of 15 men, will fast rope down from hovering Blackhawks to each corner of the block surrounding the target building and establish a perimeter.
Right, so they're at the corner of the building. That's their point, to be at the corner and defend 4 corners of the object. But there are so many rooftops over here. I can see so many rooftops and so many open streets. Whoever is even not on the closest house rooftop, but the next to it, even 2 houses away, I think they can have clear contact with them. This is to sit on these corners, for me, from the view I have right now, seems like a sitting duck. If you don't do it with like 15 minutes and the enemy cannot mobilize, then yes, but if you're there longer than, I don't know, an hour, seems like a sitting duck. Everybody can shoot at you from every direction. As a soldier, this is what it seems to me. I'm sure they actually plan to go in and out very fast. The enemy cannot mobilize, but we all know this is not what happened. And when the enemy does mobilize and they have forces on the rooftops or on the streets, these corners, the people or the soldiers who are sitting on these corners, to every direction they're open. Perhaps I would position them on the rooftops. I've positioned them on the rooftops and maybe some on the corners, but some on the rooftops as well. But hey, what do I know? I'm an infantry soldier. This is just my 2 cents. I mean, people who made this plan obviously know more about this.
Once the prisoners are secured, the Humvee and truck convoy led by Lieutenant Colonel Danny McKnight will roll in front of the target building, load the entire raiding force and prisoners on board, and exfil back to base before Aidid's militia can mobilise against them.
Okay, that was the plan, yeah.
All the while,
before mobilization, right? They would do it so fast that the enemy cannot actually mobilize or even shoot back. And then the plan is maybe okay, but even then I think it has major flaws.
The Blackhawks and Little Birds will circle around to provide air cover. A command and control Black Hawk directs the forces, and a combat search and rescue helicopter is ready to react to any problems should they arise. For more substantial problems,
That's
the
huge.
10th Mountain Division...
Look at this. This is a huge damn city. If this mobilizes against you, what are you gonna do? You can't do anything. You cannot carpet bomb civilians, so you gotta fight your way out one by one, but there's many people in this city who hate American forces. Oh my god. I know this story. I've seen the movie, and I know how brave the Americans were who went in there. I know how good of fighters they were and survivors. They were there all night. But looking at this right now, how the hell did they survive? Some of them didn't, but those who did, how? Woo!
Division are on standby as a quick reaction force at their base in the west of the city. The peacekeeping UN, Pakistani and Malaysian troops and armour are not on standby, but occupy the new port area of the city in the south. The whole plan should take 30 minutes to complete. With an EP-3 Orion and an OH-58 Kiowa circling overhead providing a live video feed to overall Commander General Garrison, the helicopters scream in towards the target building in the area of the Olympic Hotel to begin the assault. Tyres are burning around the city. With US forces jamming radio signals, the tyre burning is a signal to the SNA militia throughout the city that the Americans are coming. AH-6 Little Birds, armed with miniguns and rocket pods, lead the way up Holwadig Road to spot any armed Somalis, and with the coast clear, the MH6s throw up a dust storm as they land with precision in front of the target building. Delta Force operators, nicknamed D-Boys, hop off the benches and move into the target building.
I'm a little bit confused there, I'm sorry if this is stupid, but yeah, I've reacted to about 3 Special Forces videos on this channel now, and every one of them says, yeah, Delta Force, one of the best Special Forces in the world, but they don't officially exist. US government, right? They, in their homepage, they don't acknowledge Delta Force existing. And none of the pages do. Do they really exist? How can this video tell us that they were Delta Force? I'm sorry if this is stupid to you, but I believe, of course they will Delta Force. But where does this information come from? Or who is entitled to confirm this if this doesn't exist, this Delta Force? Open this up to me in the comments, please.
The time is 3:42 PM. The 4 Ranger Chalks begin fast roping down from hovering Black Hawks to the street 60 feet below. The Chalks form L-shaped defensive positions on each corner of the block, except for Chalk 4, who have accidentally been dropped a block further away.
Oh.
This is the
might be because of the dust the choppers build up, maybe, I don't know. And 1 block, yeah, if the enemy won't mobilize, you can move that 1 block. But if they mobilize and shoot at you, it's really vital that you're not 1 block away.
First time out as the leader of Chalk 4, the Staff Sergeant Matt Eversman, and in his Chalk, the first ever combat mission for 18-year-old Private Todd Blackburn, fresh in from high school and boot camp.
I remember.
Having not yet been to Ranger School.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, likely excitement and adrenaline, Blackburn completely misses the rope as he exits the aircraft and falls 60 feet to the ground.
60
Medics
feet.
run to attend to him. The raid is taking place close to the Bakara market.
First casualty, nothing has even begun yet, and already it begins bad. Bad omens, Blackburn Fells, what is it? 30 feet or 60 feet? Whichever it was, it's really damn high to fall and hit the hard ground from that height. And the dude might die. We know he didn't, right? But the mission hasn't even begun yet. Poor Blackburn.
An ID'd controlled area of the city with a high concentration of SNA militia. With the pre-warning that the raid was coming,
away.
Hundreds of militia are organised, armed and waiting. Fire begins to erupt on the Rangers from all directions. SNA runners move out across the city to mobilise militia further afield, who begin to arm themselves, mount up on trucks, and head in the direction of the helicopter.
We're not talking about so fast that the militia couldn't mobilize. They are already mobilized. They knew Americans were coming, so the plan. I mean, yeah, of course, if you have choppers flying over the city, everyone in the city will see those choppers. They knew they're Americans. They will take their Kalashnikov and go. That is the mobilization in Mogadishu. You just take your Kalashnikov and go. You don't need no time. So the time the militia needs to mobilize is non-existent. They're ready to go immediately. And they're here, shooting immediately. Alright, the fight begins.
Circling above the city. However, as the SNA are only using runners on foot, 30 minutes should be plenty of time for the raiding force to exfil from the area before the city swarms in.
So they're not worried about these,
but with the fire raining
city
down on them, a helicopter evacuation is out of the question. They'll have to wait for the convoy. Rocket-propelled grenades, RPGs, are now being fired at the defending rangers. A crowd of unarmed locals are also forming around the raid site. The situation is manageable, but the strength of the resistance is much higher than expected. While the Delta operators move through the target building, the Humvee convoy arrives on the street outside and waits for them to complete their work. Eversman orders 5 men in his chalk to move Blackburn over to the waiting vehicles. Chalk 2's M60 machine gunner, Sean Nelson.
I have a question about the Humvees. Right. Can they take RPG? And if they can, how many shots? Because they will take many. Can they take it full into the front or to the side? Will it save the lives of the soldiers in it? And can it still move and shoot? How durable is the Humvee to RPG fire?
Can see a larger crowd, numbering in the thousands, forming further down the street he's monitoring. He spots an armed group following a man, confidently riding a cow out into the street in front of him, wielding an AK.
Oh hell!
He opens fire on the man, and the rest of the group scatter. Just at that moment...
Okay, listen to this. You're one of the Delta operators. You're on Chalk 4, aiming at your sector as you do. You see a dude confidently riding a cow with their Kalashnikov. Yeah, I'm the freedom fighter. I'm the freedom fighter of Mogadishu and I have my cow. I'm here to take my freedom back from you Americans because I have my cow here. Me and my cow. We will take this city back from you. Screw you, America. And then he gets shot. Yeah, confidently riding a cow, my ass.
A Black Hawk sweeps overhead and looses blistering fire on the street below with its minigun. The group and the cow don't last long.
The cow goes down. Oh hell no, no, not the cow. He was so confident on that cow. I'm sorry, I'm making fun of people. If you're from Mogadishu, I'm sorry. Shouldn't make fun of you, but maybe don't ride cows confidently towards Delta Force operators next time.
The group of 15 Somalis approach. Some are armed and using the unarmed amongst them as human shields.
Oh hell no.
He first tries to aim just at the militia, but with Nelson and the rest of Chalk 2 taking...
Of course, immediately against the Geneva conference you cannot use human shields, but who cares? They're Mogadishu fighters, they don't care. Still, this is such a no-go to use human shields. As much as I know, don't do that.
From the group. He weighs the decision and decides he has no choice but to open fire on all of them. Of course,
yeah.
The group scatters, leaving armed and unarmed dead. Seeing this, a larger group of militia and unarmed locals charge at Chalk 2. This time, without time to think about it, the Chalk returns fire. At that moment, a little bird marauds down the street above their heads and inflicts a devastating minigun run on the crowd.
Oh.
The display of awesome firepower disperses any survivors.
Oh yeah, what are we talking? We're not talking about the 30, that's the A10, but little bird. I am guessing 20. I'm guessing 20mm. I don't know, I might make mistakes here. We don't have armed attack helicopters in Estonia, but what I've seen on the videos, I'm guessing 20, which is a little bit smaller than this 30mm. But 20 is enough to make people turn into red minced meat, especially a dense crowd like this. It will disperse this crowd easily. Oh hell. No more confidently riding cows in this crowd. I feel bad for the cow, what can I say?
All 4 Chalks are now being forced into the tough decision to open fire on militia who are using unarmed people as human shields.
Oh fuck.
From the perspective of the locals who are just arriving at the scene, they see the Americans indiscriminately firing on civilians, and the fury of the citizens grows further. The hornet's nest has been stirred.
Oh yeah.
Lieutenant Colonel McKnight sends 3 Humvees to carry critically injured Blackburn back to base immediately. The journey should only take 5 minutes, but they've driven into the storm. They turn onto National Street to find militia on both sides firing into them, with stray rounds.
Right, I gotta talk to you. Many of you guys, I know you guys are in the army, in the Marines. Many of you guys have been that guy on top of the Humvee, right? You're driving through this National Street, what they call it. They are buildings on both sides and people on the rooftops firing down on you. And you are the guy in the open, on top of the Humvee with your, what is it, Browning? I think it's Browning, right? Shooting back. But you're open, right? They can shoot at you. You're not in the Humvee. You're on top of it. So your everything, your upper body is open, yeah? You can get shot. Is it true? I'm speculating here. But driving a Humvee through rooftops filled with enemy soldiers does seem like the Humvee does not do much for you if you're their gunner. They can just take you down.
Into each other as they drive through. Paulson, manning the 50 caliber machine gun on the lead Humvee, fires right, and Pillar in the second fires left. In the furious torrent of fire, Pillar is killed instantly by a round to the forehead.
Okay, so it is true. You can just get shot instantly, and they are... Yeah, I've seen the movie. I've seen actually how Afghanis and Somalis and people who haven't got the training, how they shoot their AK. They shoot it however they want to shoot it. You know, they don't really aim good. They do blind fire behind the walls and everything. But a lucky bullet can still take you if you're a gunner in the Humvee, and he's killed immediately. And he's moving also, so it has to be like a really lucky bullet. But I feel bad. They went to bring Blackburn in to the base, and now they have a casualty. They have 2 bodies now, 2 casualties. One is KIA, one is injured.
That moment, fighting for their lives, and with RPGs now flying down the street at them, a call comes over the radio from Sergeant Gallagher, a platoon sergeant with the main force at the target building. How are you guys doing? Taking heavy fire, Strucker shouts, "I don't want to talk about it." Unsatisfied, Gallagher calls again. "Have you got any casualties?" "Yeah, 1. Strucker replies, deliberately short. "Who is he and what's his status?" "It's Pillar." "And what's his status?" "He's dead." The busy radio network falls to silence. The first, but not the last, TFR trooper has lost his life. Sustaining further injuries, Strucker's Humvees continue to fight their way back to the airport.
Right, imagining me being the communications, right? I always had to do those reps. We call them reps. I don't know what, I can't remember what they stand for. Reps, you send the rep up. How many soldiers are KIA? How many soldiers are injured? What's their status? Do we need a evac? That's the information that went through me. Company information up to the brigade or up to the battalion. And I would have to send that up. 1 KIA and 1 injured. Evacing them to the base. And you get all that info and you know, well, others don't. Maybe others on the ground here, they don't know anybody's dead. But I do, because I hear that on the radio, and I'm not here to report that to everybody, but I do know it until the end of the battle. So it's a very sad position, because you always know if somebody gets killed. Others don't. Even if the battle is over, they will know. They are told who is dead, but I will know instantly, because that's the communications guy's job, to gather the statistics and send it up immediately, so the base knows whether to send reinforcements, whether to send an evac, and that is sad. It affects you to constantly send up the dead soldiers.
The Delta Boys have apprehended the 2 targets and a further 22 SNA prisoners and are loading them into the trucks. It's now nearly 40 minutes after the first boots landed. The process of clearing the building and processing the prisoners is taking longer than expected. There is also confusion with the Delta team waiting for the comms from the convoy to leave the building, and the convoy waiting for the Delta team to let them know that they've apprehended the prisoners. That
is one of those small confusions. Who goes first? Who lets the other side know first that we are ready? It's a very small thing, but in a battle like this, the 2 or 3 minutes it takes to figure this stuff out is vital, because in that 2 or 3 minute time frame, people get killed.
The mob grows stronger, but the Rangers and circling helicopters are so far keeping them at bay. Chalk 4 Rangers Galantine and Berenson take non-critical hits, with Galantine losing a finger.
2 hits.
Chief Warrant Officers Cliff Elvis Walcott and Donovan Bull Briley, pilots of Super 6-1, continue to manoeuvre their helicopter at low level above the action, their crew chiefs discharging thousands of rounds from their miniguns at the militia below, and 4 Delta snipers picking off the enemy through the open doors. On the first day of the ground war of Desert Storm, Walcott had been one of the pilots to fly special forces deep into Iraq to recon Saddam's forces. He is a legend in the special operations community. During a turn to port, starboard gunner Staff Sergeant Warren spots a militiaman with an RPG below him. "Hey, I've got a guy with an RPG. He's at 5 o'clock, moving to 6 o'clock. Sergeant Randy, the portside gunner, can't spot the man as the helicopter continues the turn. Is he by a building or something you can describe? Before Warren can respond, the RPG round flashes skyward and hits the tail of Super 6-1. The Black Hawk enters an uncontrollable spin.
I gotta do this. We got a Black Hawk down, we got a Black Hawk down.
The Rangers of Chalk 2 hear the impact and watch in horror as one of their own helicopters spins erratically around the sky, smoke trailing from its tail. The radio net erupts in panicked calls. "We got a Black Hawk going down. We got a Black Hawk going down." Delta operator Sergeant Smith isn't wearing his seatbelt and desperately holds onto a crew seat, the spin pulling his legs outside the door of the aircraft as it descends. He took an RPG, 6-1 is going down. In the cockpit, Walcott coolly and in a banterous fashion asks his co-pilot, "Hey Bull, you gonna pull the PCLs offline or what?" A procedure to attempt to control the spin. It's no use, and still maintaining his composure, Walcott makes one last radio transmission, 6-1 going down. The Black Hawk clips a roof and ploughs into the street below, rolling over onto its side in a ball of dust and debris.
Right in the middle of a big street, you can see open to every direction. You know, you can attack this helicopter from every direction. And I've seen the movie, they do attack it from every direction. If it would have fallen in the middle of those buildings, for example, it's a different story, but here you cannot defend this. My friends, I will take this little moment to talk about the Estonian soldier hat and the Estonian YouTuber cup. I only have 2 pieces of merch, guys. I don't want to overwhelm you. So if you're truly a fan, if you like my videos, please go and get those 2 things. Estonian YouTuber cup, a very legendary cup. It never breaks, never does. And the Estonian soldier hat, a very legendary one. You can get it in 3 colors. Go and get it, put it on your head. Everybody will see that you are a legendary dude. So yeah. If you like my videos, go and get those 2 things. Maybe I should do an Estonian soldier A10 Warthog round, eh? What do you think?
Both pilots are killed instantly. It is later deemed likely that Walcott deliberately pitched the helicopter's nose down at the last second, ensuring that the pilots absorbed the impact, saving the lives of the crew in the back.
Oh my god.
The command and control bird above orders all available nearby Rangers to push to the crash site. Chalk 2 is nearest, so 8 of the 15 Rangers in that chalk.
How are you gonna push? There are rooftops filled with enemies. This seems like an impossible mission to me. I mean, pushing under gunfire from a few enemy operatives, it's hard enough, but here we have a mob of enemies armed and on the rooftops, and you don't have a Humvee, you're just on foot. Pushing a few blocks with this situation, I think 50% casualties at least. This is what it seems to me right now. So yeah, of course they have to do this. They have to rescue those operators in the helicopter, but pushing on foot through a territory like this, it seems suicide.
Move out on foot into the city. The convoy is ordered to prepare to move to the crash site immediately.
Yeah, the convoy.
A message is sent to the Quick Reaction Force of the 10th Mountain Division to mobilise for the massive fight that is about to take place. Aidid is not to be underestimated. He was educated in Rome before postgraduate study in military science at the Frunze Military Academy in the Soviet Union. He has carefully studied the Soviet campaign in Afghanistan in the 1980s and found that guerrilla forces were successful in bringing down Soviet attack helicopters with shoulder-launched RPGs. His battle plan with the Americans is to draw them deep into his territory in the city and then swarm the area with RPGs. Bring down.
How crazy is this? A guerrilla force armed with only Kalashnikov and RPGs can do so much damage, so much. You cannot see them, you cannot identify them. Are they a civilian? Are they a fighter? You cannot even, in the movie, you couldn't even shoot back until they shoot at you. You couldn't you couldn't take the initiative. So yeah, fighting a guerrilla force is really difficult because they don't follow a Geneva Conference. They don't follow any rules of engagement, which Americans have to follow. It's impossible to fight this crowd.
Down a helicopter and then collapse the city around the troops on the ground, overrunning them in the chaos. Super 6-1's shootdown is no accident. Of the surviving 2 crew and 4 Delta operators, only 2 are not seriously injured. Having just survived a brutal helicopter crash, Sergeants Bush and Smith emerge and defend themselves and the rest of the survivors from the now arriving locals. Little Bird Star 4-1 is the first help to arrive at the crash scene. They land near the alley and are immediately charged at by Somalis. The 2 pilots, Warrant Officers Jones and Meyer, defend themselves from the cockpit with pistol fire. Jones hops out and moves to the wreckage just as Lieutenant D. Tommaso arrives with the 7 other members of Chalk 2 to form a defensive perimeter.
Okay, the Chalk 2 Delta operators have arrived, no casualties. I am amazed, seeing how many enemies, how many rooftops, how many open corners. I'm amazed they didn't take any casualties. That means the enemy, they really cannot shoot. We're talking about small distances here, 30-40 meters tops, and you have a Kalashnikov. That distance is nothing. They really cannot shoot. They miss a lot.
They find that Bush has been killed defending the survivors. They move his body into the Little Bird, and Sergeant Smith also hops on board. Super 6-1 pilots Walcott and Briley are dead, and the rest of the survivors require medical attention before they can be evacuated.
Oh hell.
Little Bird Star 4-1 lifts off and heads back to base. The Humvee convoy rolls up to Sergeant Eversman's Chalk 4, and under heavy fire they get in. People now line the streets, roofs and windows, firing down into them. They turn right towards the crash site, but, disoriented, the lead Humvee then turns south, now heading away from the crash site. Ranger Commander Captain Steele orders the remaining Chalks and Delta operators to move on foot towards the crash. They encounter heavy resistance. Delta Sergeant Fillmore is killed en route.
Okay, one casualty.
With one less Black Hawk in the low orbit role covering troops on the ground, the Commander Control Bird radios Chief Warrant Officer Mike Durant in Super 6-4, loitering to the north of the city. Super 6-4, this is Alpha 5-1. Come up and join Super 6-2 in his orbit. 6-4 is inbound. Durant heads south towards the city. The Combat Search and Rescue Black Hawk Super 6-8 arrives at the crash site, and the team of Rangers and D-Boys begin to fast rope down to the street below. With men still on the rope, the helicopter is hit by an RPG.
Oh.
In a display of superb airmanship, pilots Dan Galotta and Herb Rodriguez hold the helicopter steady while the men complete their fast rope. They ascend from the area and successfully manage to put their stricken aircraft down at the friendly Newport area in the south. Under heavy fire, the CSAR team moves the 2 remaining wounded crew chiefs to a nearby shelter.
Right, Americans, they don't leave anybody behind. We know this. There have been many movies about it, Saving Private Ryan, and here also they're trying to get even the dead bodies away from the enemy. If getting the injured and the dead out makes more injured than dead, it's a dead circle. How are you gonna get them out if you're only producing more dead soldiers and more injured soldiers while getting out the dead and injured soldiers? This is what's going on here. You send a Black Hawk to defend the site where the other Black Hawk went down, and the new Black Hawk gets hit, and that's what the General ID'd wants. Shoot down one, they will swarm in to protect, their helicopter and they're dead and they're injured. Then shoot down more and swarm them. The General ID'd knows what he's doing.
They then move to strengthen the perimeter set up by Chalk 2 at the intersection just west of the crash. The convoy is lost. Under heavy fire, they can't afford to slow down, but it's taking time to relay directions to the crash site from the aircraft above McKnight.
Oh, you don't want to be lost.
The locals are now building makeshift roadblocks throughout the area, using tables, chairs and general debris. Fearing bombs planted inside the roadblocks, the Humvees can't simply drive through them. They make several wrong turns and loop around the area of the target building. 10 minutes after Walcott's Super 6-1 went down, Durant's Super 6-4 is on station over the rooftops providing minigun fire support for the Humvees below. At 4:40 PM, Durant's Black Hawk takes an RPG hit to the tail section. He pulls the aircraft out of the orbit and points southwest towards the airport.
Yeah.
It's leaking oil, but the controls are still responding, and he believes they can make it back. All of a sudden, The tail rotor gearbox and most of the tail itself completely disintegrates. The Black Hawk enters a violent spin. He radios, Super 6-4 going in hard, we're going down. Just before hitting with the ground, the pilots manage to level off the chopper, and as it impacts with the earth, the helicopter lands flat on its belly. This is crucial, and as a result, the crew survive.
Yeah, that's good.
Black Hawk Super 6-2 circles the crash site, and immediately spots a mob of people moving towards it from all directions. They can see the convoy still driving around lost in the city. To the west, Struker's 3 Humvees that had earlier evacuated Private Blackburn back to the airport have now rearmed, and with a volunteer force of cooks, clerks, and injured rangers, are attempting to fight their way back into the city, but are pinned down.
The convoy is lost, they don't know where they are, they're surrounded by an angry mob and rooftops. The rooftops are most dangerous, I think. They give the enemy overlook over your troops and your convoy. They can shoot the gunners on the Humvees, that's the worst, and they can shoot through the trucks. The trucks are not bulletproof. The second Black Hawk is down, 3 have been hit in general. There are many casualties, and the volunteer force trying to get back into the city is pinned down. They're right where General Aidid wants them, in his trap. Whew. This is getting tense.
Delta snipers Sergeants Randy
I'm out of
Shugart
tea.
and Gary Gordon, on board Super 6-2, can see for themselves that Super 6-4 will shortly be overrun, and that both convoys are nowhere near. They volunteer to deploy on the ground to defend the crash site.
This is a suicide mission. This is a yeah, they volunteer to go down, 2 of them. It's suicide. You cannot be rescued from, there's the enemy numbers in hundreds and there's only 2 men. That's suicide. And they know this. And they still do it. What heroes.
Harrell and Matthews in the Command and Control Bird reject the request, but after discussion they agree that they have no choice, and if anyone can hold
They're
off
heroes.
the mob, Delta
Heroes.
Force operators, the elite of the US military, might be the only chance to save the crew of Super 6-4.
Respect.
Shugart and Gordon are inserted on the ground nearby, and make their way to the crash site. They find that all 4 crewmen have survived the crash. The Delta operators carefully move Durant to a tree next to a shack on the right side of the downed helicopter. His back and leg are broken. They hand him his MP5K submachine gun, before moving to the other side of the Black Hawk to face the incoming mob. To his left is an alleyway. Durant covers their backs by firing on any Somali that emerges. Super 6-2, the helicopter that had dropped Shugart and Gordon on the second crash site, is now circling overhead, opening fire on the armed crowd bearing down on the crash site. The RPG fire up at them is intense, and nearby helicopters warn Super 6-2 of how close the explosions are getting. With snipers on nearby Little Birds also firing down on the crowd, the mob is being kept at bay. But it doesn't last. On the ground, Durant hears Gary Gordon cry out in pain from the other side of the helicopter. After a few seconds, Shugart brings Gordon's weapon to Durant, loaded and ready to fire. Above them, Super 6-2's pilot Mike Gaffina sees Gordon has been killed and radios a desperate plea. This is Super 6-2. Ground element crash site number 2 has no security right now. They have 1 guy on the ground. Are there any nearby ground forces moving to crash site 2 at this time? Negative, not at this time. RPGs continue to flash up towards Super 6-2, and finally, one connects on the starboard side of the aircraft. His co-pilot and one of the Delta snipers in the back are heavily wounded in the blast. Gaffina has almost no control over the aircraft and somehow manages to crash land it in the Newport area to the south. The miniguns of Super 6-2 are no longer raining lead from above, and after an hour of desperate fighting, Shugart runs out of ammunition. The mob finally overruns Super 6-4. 3 of the 4 crewmen and snipers Gordon and Shugart are all killed. The angry locals are in the process of beating Durant to death when his life is spared by an SNA member who decides to take him to Aidid as a prisoner. Shugart and Gordon would later be awarded posthumous Medals of Honor. The convoy is taking a hammering in the city, with 50% of the troops inside the vehicles now having suffered gunshots or shrapnel wounds. Struker's
50%. This is how the military statistics works. If your force has 50% casualties, injured or dead, even if they're injured, 50% casualties renders the company or battalion unfit for battle. If your company has 50% casualties, you don't send that company. You send them to the back to recover, because they're not fit to fight. Because your squad, for example, it has 9 men, 10 men, 11, whichever country you're from. If they have 50% casualties, 5 of the 9 are out. Those 5 men need somebody to carry them. So 4 of them will carry 5 men. It's already, one of them has to carry 2. That's impossible. So yeah, if you have 50% casualties, the whole company is out. The whole squad is out. 1 casualty equals actually 3 casualties. One injured man needs to be carried by 2 men. You're right. 1 casualty equals 3 casualties. So we're talking about 50% casualties here. This whole manpower is already unfit for combat. But they have to go on, they're deep in enemy territory, they have to fight, and there will be more casualties. And the situation is so screwed, so screwed. If you look at the statistics, or if you look at whatever you look at, in every way you look at this situation, it's just...
Humvees are unable to fight their way back in. 2 Black Hawks have been shot down, another 2 have been damaged by RPG hits, and most of the others are riddled with bullet holes. Chalks 1, 2 and 3 are taking casualties on foot, fighting 2 and defending Crash Site 1. The mission launched at 3:35 PM and was supposed to take 30 minutes. The fight will continue throughout the night, and the troops on the ground are running out of water and ammunition, and didn't bring night vision equipment.
Right, if you're going on a 30-minute mission, you cannot bring your night vision equipment. It's heavy, it takes room, it takes space, it's uncomfortable. The less you carry, the faster you can move and make you get the mission done. But now you really do need your night vision equipment. They don't even have water or food, because it was not supposed to be a 24-hour mission.
The situation is bleak. But the 10th Mountain Division is mobilising. If the Rangers and Delta operators on the ground can hold out into the night, 100 Malaysian and Pakistani tanks and armoured vehicles, with US Humvees, can launch a large-scale armoured assault into the city. The time is now 5:40 PM. The rescue convoy won't move out until 11:30 PM. They're in the fight of their lives.
Holy... This is crazy. It's difficult to watch this stuff. This video is very long, I know, but thank you if you have stayed till the end of the video. It is very intense, and I gotta say I thoroughly enjoy these kind of videos. Not because so many horrible things happen, but because the analysis and the overview we get, I really like it. My friends, if you like my videos, subscribe to the channel. I've never asked it. I never asked people to subscribe, but now I have to, because I'm actually losing a lot of subs. I don't know why. And if you like them, become a patron. Go and get the Estonian soldier hat, the Estonian YouTuber cup, and you will be the man. And as always, my friends, until my next video, stay cool and bye bye.